everyone, and welcome back to Thrive Alive. I am your host, Nurse Jazmine, and today we are talking with the founders of the AliveFaithNetwork. Let me introduce them. We have Dr. Elizabeth Lynch. She is a professor and co-director of the AFN. We have Mrs. LaDawne Jenkins. She is the program manager and the co-director of the AFN. And last but not least, we have Pastor Steve Epting. He is the pastor of Hope Community Church in the Austin area of Chicago and a co-director of the AFN. So I have a little surprise before we get into the questions. I'm going to ask you guys a few rapid fire questions, okay? White Sox versus Cubs.
White Sox.
Cubs.
Sox.
Okay. Deep dish versus thin crust.
Thin crust.
Thin.
According to what restaurant, but I'll go with deep.
Chicago mix or butter popcorn?
Chicago mix. What else is there?
I don't even know what that means.
Lakeshore Drive by day or Lakeshore Drive by night?
By day.
Either.
Either.
That's right,
Okay. So these were Chicago-based rapid fire questions. So that was fun just to, lighten up the mood a little bit. Okay, going right into our first question. We want to know, what is the history of the AFN?
So the AFN really grew out of our first set of initiatives that we did with churches. And so that was really driven by the health disparities that are evident in Chicago. And then the idea that a lot of the public health programming that's done in order to address those disparities and improve health in the African American community in particular are based on, designed by researchers who really don't know very much about the community and what's actually going on. And so we wanted to develop partnerships with leaders in the Black community who care about these issues in order to work together to design programs to improve health. And so we did that in one study with about 5 churches, and that's where we met LaDawne. And then those churches were all over the city and suburbs, and then we decided to focus on the West Side. And so, and I will add that those programs started with pastor wellness programs. So the way it first started was a pastor reached out to us and said that we need help taking care of ourselves, caring for the caregiver. And so we developed with those pastors a pastor wellness program. From there, we ended up developing programs for the entire church. And so we shifted to the West Side, and that's where we met Pastor Steve. And then he can take it from there.
Yeah, that was great perspective, because once it got to the West Side, I was given the opportunity to participate in the pastor wellness portion of things. We then began to work together with the entire congregation, and we found out that when we worked with churches, there were certain dynamics that researchers needed to pay attention to when coming into the community. They needed to pay attention to the dynamics of the community and even the dynamics of the church. And we saw ourselves being successful because we followed the direction of the leaders in the church, and that's where it began. This thought process began, and it was a conversation with us 3 after we had finished a round of screenings at about 5 or 7 churches, and we said, this is what we should be doing. We should be doing this at a higher level, and so it was then that the AFN was born.
Another thing, just to add to that, it was also during the time of this immense focus on the West Side around health equity and health disparities and rush, and putting things in place to really focus, narrowly focus on what are we doing to address health equity. How can we expand our work to address health equity? And so it just kind of started to bloom from there.
I really appreciate the fact that you all went to different churches and different pastors, because the church, the African American church, is a place where a lot of people go when they're in trouble, when they trust their some people trust their pastor before they trust their doctor.
Right.
So your pastor may know some things about you before your doctor does, and the Alive Faith Network is bridging that gap and allowing people to have more trust in the medical system. So, okay, so moving along, I want you guys to detail the tenets of the AFN. So there are 3 tenets of the AFN. There's clergy wellness, research, and health ministries. Pastor Steve, can you talk to us about clergy wellness?
Yeah, that's such an awesome process to take a pastor through. Most pastors take on the role of being invincible, or at least that's how they see themselves in some spaces. But when pastors get together and talk about their issues, you really see how much we struggle, both physically and mentally, and how that affects our bodies every day. So when we take pastors through our pastoral wellness opportunities, such as having them talk to therapists or taking on a soul care retreat, we really get to see them take a new mentality as it relates to how they live. It has never failed. Every pastor wellness process that we've taken our pastors through has been a life-changing process for them. And that's what makes the Alive Faith Network important to them, because they now have a personal investment in themselves. And they also wanted their congregations to have the same thought about wellness as they do.
I think that's amazing, because we have to take care of us before we can take care of someone else, right? I think about being a parent. If I'm not in tip-top shape, how can I be there for my son?
I have youth that won't go anywhere. Like, they won't leave their house outside of school. I do think the mental changes when a person feels like they can't go outside, like, that changes things.
More afraid to live than die is something I've heard more than once from Chicago's youth. Gun-related homicides are the leading cause of death for 10 to 44-year-old black males, making them 14 times more likely than white males to die from gun violence. And if loss of life isn't bad enough, it also affects families and communities and costs the U.S. economy at least $100 billion each year. That's why I'm teaming up with Chicago's young black men to design an app that not only teaches them skills to live a violence-free life, but also connects them to key community resources. Violence can have long-term consequences for young people's physical, mental, and social health.
What you experience influences your blood pressure, your mental well-being.
We know young people are tech-savvy, so let's see how technology might be used to help prevent violence. I'm teaming up with dozens of young black men to co-design and test a new app. The app will give them life skills and mindfulness coaching to deal with real-life situations like refusing gangs or practicing conflict resolution. We hope this app helps decrease the risk of violence and lowers its consequences.
It's a way for us to meet the youth where they're at. In the world of social media and in the world of having things at your fingertips.
Brotherly Act will serve as a digital support system for at-risk young men and boys who want to be better sons, fathers, brothers, and community members. And after we figure out what works for black men in Chicago, we can create specific versions of this intervention for other groups across the nation, scaling to black youth from coast to coast, and expanding to serve Hispanic communities and others at risk of violence.
So when we think about our tenants, that is actually the first thing that you mentioned, our clergy wellness, right? And that is because we realize that our clergy are pulled on by the city, by the community, by hospital systems. Everybody pulls on clergy. And we always thought, who pours back into the clergy, right? How can we serve in a way that we can pour back into them, right? And so that is what we do. You know, we focus on our clergy first, because we know if they're healthy, if they're feeling strong, then that's how they can lead their congregations better, right? They're vulnerable just like everybody else. And so that is one thing we take a lot of pride in, is pouring back into the lives of the pastors.
I love that. That's very, very important. So moving on to research, another tenet of the AFN. Dr. Lynch, would you talk to us about that?
Sure. So, you know, Steve made a great sort of transition by talking about how in the pastor wellness program, pastors really, you know, learn and start to understand how beneficial it is to actually focus on themselves and take care of themselves and, you know, be more healthy. And so then they, as Steve said, they want their churches to experience the same thing. And so that's what we've done. We have done some other things, a big health screening, some different pilot studies, but the main things that we try to focus on are programs that really help address some of the biggest health issues that we've identified through our work in the community. And so, for example, we're focusing on blood pressure, we're focusing on physical function, and we had a big intervention that focused on diet. So one of the key things that we like to do, that we try to do, is build a culture change within the church. So we try to include the entire church in these programming as much as possible, so that you know, people get input from each other about, you know, maintaining healthy behaviors. So, because that's something that's really hard in our society, generally speaking. People aren't very healthy. People don't exercise a lot. They don't eat really very healthy. And so, and a lot of that comes from the people that you spend time with. If all your family and friends are eating, you know, not very healthy food and not exercising, it's harder for you to do that. So we're trying to change the whole culture.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know when it comes to research, everyone learns. That's probably been the most exciting part of working or bringing research to the table, is that the community learns, they learn about themselves, the church learns, both as a congregation and how congregationally you can support each other, but then personal. But then the researchers learn. They don't understand community and it's in its context and some other thing. Language is different, so you're learning all these things as you go. And if you're a true learner, you start to begin to talk like the people you're teaching. And so I begin to say words like Dr. Lynch that I would have never said on my own. And unfortunately, she starts to talk like me too. but the great part is you start to see those learnings as time goes on. That this is what's important in a community, and this is what's important in research, and it starts to work together.
And if I could say one more thing just about the research. So we do so our research is mostly focused on programming, health programming, right? But it's important to do the research piece too, because there's a lot of money that goes into, I mean, not as much as there should be, but there's money that goes into building health programming in the community, but that programming doesn't necessarily work. So in order to make sure that our dollars that we have to address health equity are spent in the best way, we need to carefully evaluate our programs so that we understand what works and what doesn't work, and we understand how to make them work better. So that's why I think research is critical, to do the research of the programming. So we build the programming together, and then we do the research to assess how it's working.
I'll tell you, but it's nothing more exciting than seeing results, you know, in the congregation, and seeing people's lives change as a result of participating in the research, whether it's the hypertension or the diet or mobility, you know, to come off of medication, to know that they have the capacity to make a change in their own lives that puts them on the path to a better health.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think we all get a lot of joy from seeing, right?
Right. I love the fact that the AFN involves the clergy in the just kind of bridging research and clergy, because we all know that in the African American community, there has been some things that was done in the past on the research side that makes people not trust what researchers do. And I think it's very important that we educate our pastors, because they have the most influence at the end of the day. And that's exactly what the AFN does. The AFN says, hey, Pastor so-and-so, be a part of this with us so that we can help change the lives of your congregation. And that's unique. And I think it's a trailblazing thing that you guys are doing here. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Are you ready to kickstart a healthier lifestyle? It's never too late. Keep It Movin' is a 6-month activity program for individuals who may be missing out on meaningful activities due to limited mobility. As we age, our muscle mass decreases, impacting our flexibility, balance, and strength. Limited mobility can affect our daily tasks, like crossing the street, participating in church activities, or even grocery shopping, making an independent lifestyle extremely difficult. Improved mobility means an improved quality of life, the ability to play with your children and grandchildren, participate in community activities, and do all the things you enjoy. Keep It Movin' was created in partnership with researchers at Rush, pastors, and community members throughout Chicago, and works to empower African American communities to safely increase their daily physical activity for overall improved health. We want to help you maintain an active lifestyle so that you can continue to do the things that bring you joy. It's time to take back your health and live a longer, fuller life. To learn more about the Keep It Movin' program and to find out how you can participate, visit our website at AliveFaithNetwork.org and fill out the contact form located on the Contact Us page. Let's kickstart your healthier lifestyle today.
So last but not least, health ministries. I would like to hear more about that from you, LaDawne.
All right. So with our health ministries, we kind of approach it from a couple of different ways. We utilize health ministries to help us better our research. You know, we use them as a sounding board, not use them, but engage. And these are members from AFN churches. Okay. We engage them around research in terms of what's working. Sometimes we are dealing with a situation, we're not sure, how will this work? You know, in the community, we need to hear the community voice. So they serve that capacity for us as a voice for the community and tell us, oh, that won't work, or you need to say it this way, or you need to think about it that way. So that's like one component of it. Another thing that we're doing with our health ministries is trying to bring resources to the community. And we're doing that through our health ministries at our AFN churches. And this will allow our churches to do what they do best, serve the community, right? The church is the hub, it's the cornerstone of communities. And people go to the church when they need food, when they need housing, they need clothes, they find their way to a house of worship. And so if our houses of worship have tools to help direct them and connect them to other services throughout the community, health services, housing services, food, you know, it lifts up the community. It helps the church satisfy its mission, because the church is a missional church. They're out here to serve the community. And it provides resources and education to the community. So we're really proud of the way we're moving with our health ministries. And they've just been such a great partner in our research in this with the AFN, you know, to help continue to move the health equity issues forward.
Yeah, I, that's a great idea. As you were talking, LaDawne, I was thinking about the fact that the Alive Faith Network, Rush, is always in the community. They're always present. We're not always there as the researchers. Sometimes we come to visit.
Right.
Sometimes you get people from the network that just comes to a pastor's anniversary. Once you begin to do that, you start to create the trust that's necessary. That makes the difference. During COVID, because Rush was always in the community, we had people who didn't want to take tests, they didn't want to get tested, they didn't want to take vaccinations until something happened to their family or to them personally. Because they knew we were in the community. That's the first step in a trust building relationship. Being there when they need you, not creating the need, but responding to the present need at that time. That's what makes this successful, because the AFN has been willing to meet those needs at that moment.
Wow, that's amazing. So we talked about the AFN, the different tenets of the AFN. And for those of you, if you don't know, Thrive Alive is under the AFN. So I want to ask you guys, how do you see Thrive Alive fitting into the AFN's overall brand expansion?
First of all, just want to make clear that we have come up with a lot of the studies and so on. We did not come up with Thrive Alive. So that was you all, people that behind the scenes here as well. So what I think is which I love that, and I think what's so cool about Thrive Alive is that, we have been working, like me from the group, coming from the research, world, right? And then the churches have really opened their doors to us, right? And so we've partnered with them and we've learned a lot about them. I think what you all are doing with Thrive Alive is opening the doors of Rush to the community, right? And so you're showing the community people what it's like here, and that really, I think, is extremely helpful in building trust as well, right? Like, these are real people. They're not, when you guys interview people, it's not just, academic about, science and stuff like that. There is some of that, but it's you show the personal side of people. And, even for me, from the research side, we don't do that a lot. And so I just, it's very heartwarming. It's kind of putting the heart back in science, and so I think it fits beautifully, and it's part of expanding the Alive Faith Network's work beyond churches, right? Opening it up to the whole community, which is what we're more and more starting to do.
And it helps expand the work, right? The messages that you all put out, or the information, the education, it can go way further than what we can do, right? I mean, you all are reaching people out the states, because it's just not local community that's hearing the message from Thrive Alive. And so, the messages the interviews that you do, the information that we hear and we learn about can benefit a lot of people. And sometimes it's just about hearing solid educational information around health that people need to hear on a constant basis, right? And so it's just constantly expanding the work that we're already doing and the importance of health and why we all should take a part in our own health.
What my hope for Thrive Alive is that we can continue to reach masses of people and even go beyond out of state and go out of the country. And because I think that what the Alive Faith Network is doing is so unique, and we see that it's working, we should be able to, take this and run with it and create world change. So, and I know that takes a lot of work.
We can do it.
It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of resources. But this is how we start. We start in our own community and word of mouth. People gonna start talking. Did you see that episode? Did you see this and that? And I'm excited personally for what we all are doing as a team and how far we're gonna go with this.
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to put in a plug for people who are interested in learning more. They can go to AliveFaithNetwork.org. Just look through the site. There are already current current research projects that churches can get involved in, go and click on and let us know you're interested, and we will connect you to a person that can help you work toward getting involved. And so we're excited about it too. Now, this is just in Chicago right now. And it's
Right now.
Suburb now. Well, we will come out of town. It may cost though. But we're excited about the work and getting people in our community involved. And so if you're interested, please let us know.
Awesome. Well, guys, that concludes I'm going to call it our season finale of the year, because we will be back next year with more interviews, more guests, and exciting information for you all. So thank you all for joining us on Thrive Alive, and we'll see you next time. Bye.